Hey there, this is Sarah Price with Flourish Health, and today we are going to talk about Kambo. So, first and foremost, Kambo is not FDA approved to treat, diagnose, cure anything, any of the words for anything. But also important to note that it is also not illegal. Kambo is completely legal in the United States and in most countries in the world, with I believe the exception of two being Brazil and Australia. So, that being said, what is Kambo? Kambo is the secretion of the frog called Philomedusa bicolor. Now, it's also called the giant leaf tree frog. It's found in the Amazon basin. What is even in the secretion? So the secretion is chock full of bioactive peptides and neuropeptides. Peptides, what are they? Simple, short proteins. There are chains of amino acids. Long chains are proteins, short chains are peptides. And it is the FDA that determines which one it is. So what do we mean when we say bioactive peptide? So a bioactive peptide means that it causes beneficial effect on the human body. So beneficial effect on the human body as well as the human brain. Why would somebody even consider doing this? So if we look back on its traditional use in the Amazon basin, there are multiple tribes that actually used it, and it's even suspected that this modality goes so as far back as the Mayans. Originally, it was used to heal tribal members when somebody got sick. It was one of the medicines that they used. Another reason that it was used is hunting magic. And I love this one because this is the one that makes us just feel really good. So what was hunting magic? Hunting magic, it was used in the young men who are going out to go hunt for the tribe and bring back food to feed the tribe. It gave them stamina. It helped them go days without food and water. It helped heighten the sensitivity of their senses so they could see better, hear better, smell better, hunt better. So it was used for hunting, and it was used for, at least for their situation, healing. Again, this is not considered healing here in the United States because it's not FDA approved, and we're not making any claims of healing. Now, I will share with you what some of the other benefits that we're seeing in modern day. Because of course the things we face in modern day aren't necessarily the things that were faced by tribes, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Today's problems are very different. So what are some of the reasons that people come for Kambo? And what is it that they're looking for? And what is it that others have seen? That's how we're gonna sort of approach this. So one of the reasons is people who are suffering with, depression, anxiety, and PTSD. There are quite a few people who have found relief of these. What are some other things that people are using it for? One is Lyme disease. So one of the peptides in Kambo happens to be really powerful antiviral, antiseptic, antibacterial, anti-protozoal, antifungal, anti-parasitic, and happens to also have some pretty strong anti-cancer properties. Now, what we know about it in terms of bacteria is that it causes a complete collapse of the bacterial cell wall. So when somebody is suffering from a chronic infection, including chronic viruses like chronic Lyme disease, people have found significant benefit using Kambo. One of the stories actually that drove me to learn more about Kambo was of a person who was suffering so significantly they were unable to get out of bed, and where modern medicine, alternative medicine, nothing was really helping them. They decided to sit with Kambo and found that they could walk again, and they really got their life back. So that was actually the first story that made me think, there is something really interesting about this. I gotta learn more. So another reason that people will use Kambo is if they are suffering with autoimmunity. That would actually be me. So I've heard that it can really help alleviate a lot of the symptoms of autoimmunity, and considering I typically struggle with a lot of mine, I was really intrigued. Now, one of the things that I can say is that my autoimmune markers, when I just checked them last month, were the very lowest they've ever been, which is amazing because I've done all kinds of things to try and, live this long, healthy life and never done it. But now, since the introduction of Kambo into my life, my autoimmune markers are low, and I anticipate they're just going to continue to go lower. And I will continue to update you guys and keep up with what that ends up doing long term. So personally for me, I have celiac. When I was gluten last year, I was actually exposed to gluten twice in a week. And honestly, it was probably the toughest time I've had. Not only did I have severe GI issues, but for weeks. And when I say weeks, I don't mean just a couple weeks. I mean a month and a half later, I was still struggling to get out of bed. I had severe brain fog. I had issues with memory, any sort of recall. When I woke up in the morning, I just could barely get out of bed, but I knew I had to be at work. When I got home in the evening, by 5 o'clock, I just crashed in my bed, ordered some food, and just hoped that a good night's sleep would make it somehow better, but it just didn't. And it was going on and on. So at that point, it became pretty desperate. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this Kambo again. I think I'm going to do the 3 days in a row. So, there is there's benefit to doing it more than just once. This is not something where you do it once and suddenly you just sort of feel great. And that's just that. The people who have found benefit from it typically find benefit from doing more than just one, but you will absolutely find benefit from doing it just one time. So I decided to sit for 3 days in a row. And on that fourth day, I was bouncing off the wall. I cannot begin to explain to you how amazing I felt. And at this point, I was already signed up to go to school to learn how to do this because I was already so fascinated by everything else that I had heard. Then I was an absolute true believer. So some of the things that I have also heard reported by people that I have served this modality to. One would be actually my brother. And some of the comments that he shared with me immediately afterwards, was he went out and played soccer. He felt really good. We did it in the evening, which is a little bit of a tougher time to do it because you do need to be fasted by at least 7 hours to sit with Kambo, which is why it's more ideal in the morning. But if that doesn't work, it doesn't work. So we switch things around to make it work for you. So he went out afterwards, played soccer, and was just like, it was almost like I could think through every step of the soccer move I was making. The next day when we spoke, he shared with me that he could play the piano a whole lot easier, that he had played soccer at lunch with some colleagues of his, and he had no sign of asthma, despite the fact that he typically would, unless he had used an inhaler. He claimed that it was as if he had used his inhaler. He was able to breathe with no problem. Another comment that I thought was really funny, he was like, I think it's almost like my brain is bigger. And I was like, that's that haunting magic awesomeness. So those are some of the benefits that people experience. I actually just served somebody else this morning. It was his second day. He did a couple days ago, and he was just like, yesterday I was so productive. I got so much stuff done. It was a good day. He was like, I am feeling good. So after today's session, he was ready. He claimed, I believe, he was ready to go, uproot trees. And so this is somewhat of a common experience, to feel like you're ready to go run a race, go work out, go, fight lions or something. So what is the experience itself like? And how do we even do this? So first of all, you and I will have a conversation ahead of time. I need to firstly make sure that it is safe for you to do it. There are some contraindications, and my utmost priority is safety. So we'll do screening to make sure that you don't have any of these conditions that would exclude you. And then depending on the medications you're on, I may need you to go back and speak to your physician about adjusting times or stuff like that. So we'll first have a screening call. After that, I'll also send an email for preparation. Going into the experience itself, the way that this secretion is given is through the skin, except for it just can't make it through the first 2 layers, so we have to make small burn points. I know that sounds a little bit alarming, like, what do you mean you burn my skin? So here it is, what it looks like on my arm. I have 3 of them right here and 4 ones from last week here. I've done multiple. This arm was probably done back in January with a bunch of spots. I find that when they're done on the upper arm, they usually heal pretty well. So we use a small incense stick, light it, get it nice and hot, blow it out, and then just tap on the skin. Feels like a little bit of a pinch. Once we get the number, and these are called gates, once we get the number of gates burned onto the skin, I will wipe off the top 2 layers of skin. Now, This burn is only through the top 2 layers, and it exposes that shiny underside part. It's not going to bleed. It's just like as if you had a blister and it popped. So from there, you will drink about 3/4 of a liter of water. There's some practices you may have heard of where they drink enormous amounts of water, and from a safety perspective, I was taught that not to do that, and I appreciate the education that I came from with this. And there's no point. The point of the water is to help the if you do need to purge, to help the purge come up. So now, as you're drinking your water, I'll prepare the dots. If this is the first time with you sitting with me, we will do a test point. Now, what that means is that I will put only 1 dot of the secretion onto your skin. It kind of looks a little bit like a little booger, if I can say that. So it looks like this little ball of secretion, and it is put onto onto the gate. Wait about 5 minutes, going to observe how you respond. And depending on how you're doing, I'll either put the rest of the ones that we've predetermined are going to go on, or maybe I'll do them one at a time and layer them over time. All depends. So initially, you start to feel a little bit of heat building in the body. Pretty much everyone begins to flush, and this is happening because some of the peptides actually cause vasodilation. The blood vessels get really big, so of course a lot of blood is more rushing to the surface of the skin, making you a little bit red. The heart rate starts to pound, and starts to pound around about 130 beats a minute, maybe as high as 150, kind of as if you just went and jogged up the street. Then can be numerous different experiences. Some people experience tingling in their hands and arms, feet and legs. Some people experience tingling even around the mouth and tongue. Now, keep in mind, this is not anaphylaxis. There is no anaphylaxis to this secretion. This is just simply the experience. What you'll notice also potentially is a little bit of a tightening in the throat. This is not uncommon. I get this pretty much every single time that I do it. And what you'll find is that maybe it's a little bit hard to swallow, but you can breathe just fine. And I'll be there right by your side to help walk you through that experience. So some other things that you might experience is some people get like buzzing or itching in the ears. They might feel kind of some pressure in the head. Some people actually also get tetany, and tetany is just sort of like a cramping or like a tightening of the muscles, and the hands can turn into like little crab hands. This is something that's actually often seen with breath work, but it can also happen with Kambo. Some people get a little bit of tetany with their hands. Let's see, that's pretty much for the most part, most of what's going to be experienced. Now, around about 6 minutes, this is when your gallbladder is getting contracting because of the peptides, and that bile happens to kind of move its way up the small intestines into the stomach. And now this is why you drink that water. Once the bile kind of hits the stomach, this is around the time that the brain starts to go, something is amiss here. I don't know what this is. I don't know what to make of this. We should just try and get it out. So I'm just gonna, for simple terms, call it chemical sensor in the brain, but I'm gonna call it the throw up center because that is what it causes. This is around the time that a lot of people will start to feel like they're getting nauseous and they need to purge. So purging may happen, perfectly normal, perfectly fine. I'll be right there with you the whole time to hand you a tissue, to hand you another little sip of water if you need to rinse your mouth. And this is when you're really sort of starting to sit in it. Around about 10 minutes, you had that vasodilation and you had that heart rate kind of starting to rush. Now is the time that the heart rate starts to sort of slow down and the vessels are still dilated. So what happens when this happens? What's the effect of this when this happens? Is the blood pressure starts to drop. This is when you start to feel like you maybe have the flu. Some people get very pale. They start just pouring sweat. They get body aches and they just don't feel good. This is also the time that depending on your blood pressure, depending on the shift that happens, this is the time that your blood pressure might drop a bit. And it's that change, that delta in the blood pressure. And the brain's like, oh, I'm not so sure about this one either. So let's just go ahead and lay you down. And so it can, for some people, cause them to pass out. This is absolutely, totally normal response. It doesn't happen all the time. It's, I would argue, it's probably it's an infrequent thing that happens, but it can happen and it's totally fine. If you pass out, that means that I just help you over down to your side so that we can kind of even out the body and get more blood back to the brain. I will wipe off the medicine from the secretion from your arm. And at that point, you will recover and you'll come back to in about 10, 15, 20, 30 or so seconds. And then your experience is kind of on its done side. Otherwise, if you kind of happen to not pass out and you're still up, you're going to go through the rest of it. You may find that you need to go to the bathroom as well, in which case I will help you there because your blood pressure is low. So we want to go slow to the bathroom. I'll help you back to your seat. And at the 20-minute mark, those secretions come off of your arm, and now it's time to sort of rest, recover, process the experience, discuss it as much as you need to, and rest if you need to. Some people do feel the need to rest. I typically need a rest in the afternoon, but then you go on with the rest of your day. Some people will feel really good right after. Some people will feel a bit tired that day, and in the coming days end up feeling that huge stamina energy kick. So that is pretty much what the experience is like. Keep in mind, it's a foreign experience. It's something you've never experienced. Your body has never experienced before. What I have found, and it's interesting, my client this morning even just said this, it's like, all right, it's like almost like my body knew what it was about to do. It was okay. Like it was even though it was a more difficult experience, it was easier because the body just knows what to expect. We get really comfortable in life and we try and run away from discomfort. And this is one of those opportunities to really sit in discomfort, to put ourselves into a place of just forcing ourselves to be uncomfortable and not running away from it. The more comfortable we get with being uncomfortable, the better we get at being uncomfortable. This is really builds a lot of resilience, builds an enormous amount of resilience. So if you are interested in sitting with me with Kambo, there will be a link in the bottom. The process to work with me is we touch base, you schedule time for a discovery call, we talk, I send you out a waiver as well as preparation email for how to prepare yourself, things to kind of keep in mind, things to bring with you. And then we decide whether or not I'm going to come to you or you are going to come to me. And that is that. I am there with you the entire way. If you have questions, you're always welcome to reach out either via text or via email. And yeah, that is it. It's pretty amazing stuff. I look forward to serving you.